Meet Sun Jinwoo, the weakest hunter in all of mankind who gets a second chance at life after a near-death encounter. Join his action-packed journey in solo leveling. 10 years ago, strange portals started appearing all over the world, releasing monsters that couldn't be defeated with regular weapons. This caused a big problem for humanity. But some people discovered they had special powers, making them known as hunters. These hunters get ranked based on how strong they are, and their powers are at their peak when they first awaken them. But a hunter can't get any stronger unless they upgrade their gear. In a construction site, a man asks his friend, Park, why he's back as a hunter, to which he says that it's to make money for his pregnant wife. Jinwoo enters and starts talking with the others while Kim tells Park that Jinwoo's named the weakest hunter in all of mankind. Juvi asks Jinwoo why he looks beat up, and he explains it's from a dungeon run without a healer, blaming himself for being weak, not his strong teammates. The leader Song gathers everyone for a meeting before they head into a gate, and Kim warns Jinwoo to be, or he might get injured again, and Jinwoo determinedly heads in. Meanwhile, Chairman Go Gun-hee tells the newly awakened hunters about how they make money by collecting essence stones from defeated monsters, which are used to make powerful gear. In the dungeon, Jinwoo gets his first essence stone, but a goblin attacks him before Park kills it, and Jui worriedly starts healing him. After clearing the dungeon, the group discovers that a tunnel leads to another dungeon but wonders if they should explore without approval and puts it to a vote with Jinwoo, considering his family's needs, deciding to go in. Meanwhile, officials rank new hunters, and S-rank hunter Chat effortlessly stops two robbers driving away on a bike. In the tunnel, Jui tells Jinwoo off and tells him to invite her to dinner if he's so sorry. They come across a gigantic gate, and upon opening it, they enter a huge hall of tall statues on every corner. When a statue suddenly kills a hunter, Jinwoo sees the commands on the tallest statue before suddenly telling everyone to get down as it obliterates some hunters with a laser beam, after which Jinwoo horrifyingly realizes he's going to die. Song-chi advises everyone to not move to prevent getting attacked and slowly approaches Jinwoo, asking how he was able to realize it was going to attack. Jinwoo says it was his intuition and helps bandage Song's bleeding arm. They see Jubi covering her ears in panic as Song says she avoids risky missions despite her healing skills because of her weak heart. Song remarks that the statue might be from an S-rank dungeon and admits they're outmatched, suggesting they should find an exit. A hunter says he's confident in his speed and rushes towards the door, but he instantly gets killed as Jinwoo asks Song about what the commandments said. Song says the first commandment was to worship God, so Jinwoo says they should follow it and asks them all to bow. Once they all comply, the statue menacingly smiles at them. They wonder if they can relax now, but it gets up and starts walking towards them, seeing which they start hurriedly running away. Jinwoo remembers the second commandment, and a man decides to do a ritual, but it steps over him. Jinwoo realizes they have to stand below statues with instruments, saves them, and takes Jubi to one, but realizes it can only hold one person, so he frantically rushes toward another statue and his leg gets crushes, but he barely manages to reach it in time. The others approach him and Jubi exhausts her energy trying to heal Jinwoo as Kim blames Song, who accepts responsibility. Jinwoo realizes the third commandment requires a human sacrifice, so Kim tells Song to go on, but nothing happens, so Jinwoo asks the remaining two hunters to let him examine it. As they all reach the altar, the gate opens and the statues slowly start approaching them before the two hunters and Kim escape. Jinwoo asks Song to escape with Jui, giving her an essence stone, and once the door closes, he decides to fight to the end, but the statues brutally strike him, and once he loses consciousness, a message appears asking if he wants to become a player. Jinwoo hurriedly wakes up in the hospital, shocked to find his body completely healed before Jinchul, a member of the Hunters Association, enters his room and tells Jinwoo that he's been out for 3 days and updates him on Juhi and Song's conditions, revealing that Jui is getting psychiatric help due to trauma, while Song might retire because he lost an arm. He says the White Tiger Guild found Jinwoo and the others, and they think Jinwoo might have experienced a second awakening. But a magic gadget shows Jinwoo's score is even lower than an average human. Once they leave, Jinwoo wonders why they didn't ask about the screen floating in front of him before his sister. Jinha arrives, Jinwoo asks her about the system screen, but she can't see it, and he realizes he can interact with the system, which gives him daily tasks but punishes him if he fails. Jinwoo accepts a daily task but realizes he can't do it in the hospital, so he decides to nap. Meanwhile, Jinchul reports Jinwoo's situation to Gunny for further evaluation, and Guildmaster Choi picks Chad to teach newbies in a B-rank mission. At night, Jinwoo gets thrown into a desert and starts getting chased by a giant centipede as penalty, but he manages to stay alive and gets thrown into the hospital after the time is up. Meanwhile, Jui refuses a raid invite because she's still recovering and visits Jinwoo, but she overhears nurses discussing how Jinwoo exercises daily as he sits down and explores his inventory after completing the daily task, remarking that he feels like he's in a game before deciding to check out an instance dungeon with a key from a loot box. Entering the dungeon, he defeats a horde of goblins before a ferocious wolf suddenly attacks him from behind. Jinwoo dodges the wolf's strikes, feeling unusually agile, and lands a powerful blow, realizing his increased strength makes a difference. However, the wolf destroys his dagger, so Jinwoo retreats and, remembering his inventory, decides to summon a magic dagger, defeating the wolf. Facing two more wolves, he struggles with his stuck sword before finally freeing it and defeating the wolf. Resting, he reaches level 2 and thinks about his progress before discovering a shop item, but he isn't at the level required to purchase it. He starts fighting more wolves and swiftly defeats them, leveling up in the process. Realizing how fragile the dagger is, he heads on and finds a teleportation stone, but decides to stay for now to get even stronger and clear the dungeon. As he goes on, he senses the boss and decides to face it, leading him to a swamp. Encountering a serpent, he gets ready to fight it, but the dagger isn't able to damage its thick scales at all, so he swiftly dodges its attacks before grabbing onto the serpent and finally managing to defeat it, receiving rewards from the system. As he exits the dungeon, he comes across a soldier and realizes the city's in chaos due to a dungeon break. He sees a party of hunters struggling against a golem and throws his dagger, instantly defeating it. One of the hunters notices it and asks the soldier about it, but Jinwoo has already walked away, remarking that he didn't think it would be defeated that easily. Back in the hospital, Jinwoo sticks to his workout routine, impressing a nurse with his muscles as she lets him know he'll be leaving soon and then shyly asks for his number. Meanwhile, S-rank hunter Baek Yoon-ho talks about his tough training schedule and his past as a firefighter on a TV show. Jinha notices Jinwoo's physical changes before heading off to school, taking the umbrella he gives her for safety. Jinwoo checks his progress and remarks that his muscle gain is due to his increased stats, thinking about how to use his ability points wisely. He receives a call from the landlord and considers going on dungeon raids for money. He thinks about reevaluating his rank but worries about attracting too much attention. Spotting an E-rank job, he heads there, completing his daily quest along the way. Meeting Dong-suk, the leader of the team, Jinwoo has some doubts about the group not having a healer, but agrees to join for the promised payment. Signing a contract that protects the party from responsibility, Jinwoo leaves for the mission with D-rank hunter Yoo Jin-ho. As they enter the dungeon, Jinwoo senses danger and gets ready before they run into a horde of ants. His instincts guide their defense, impressing the other hunters. Despite winning, Jinwoo senses more danger and warns Jinho to be careful. They see the gigantic spider boss, and Dong-suk's party leaves Jinho and Jinwoo alone to go get mining equipment, but the spider awakens as soon as they leave as Jinwoo realizes what the real intention of the party was. He tells Jinho to get back because he's going to take it down. Dong-suk's partner questions why they decided to unleash the spider on Jinwoo and Jinho, so he explains they avoided waking it to ensure they could escape before Jinho and Jinwoo died. Despite Jinho's doubts about Jinwoo's abilities as an E-rank hunter, Jinwoo swiftly attacks the spider, surprising him. Meanwhile, Gunhee tells Jinchul he's tired, so they decide to have a sparring match in which, despite his age, Gunhee easily overpowers him while in the dungeon. Jinwoo struggles against the spider's defenses. Jinho admires his speed, but starts getting worried, knowing that this sort of strength is often connected to dangerous hunters. Despite fatigue, Jinwoo considers using his dagger's abilities to gain an advantage and starts attacking the spider's weak spots. Dodging its attacks, he relentlessly strikes it and ultimately defeats the spider. However, Dong-suk's party arrive in shock, mistakenly believing Yoo-jin defeated the spider and telling him to kill Jinwoo if he wants to live, but Jinho refuses and gets ready to fight them before Jinwoo suddenly receives an urgent quest to eliminate them, shocking him. As the dungeon collapses, Jinwoo uses his skill to make them fear him and starts killing them one after another and completing the urgent quest. They narrowly escape the collapsing dungeon, reporting the fact that Dong-suk's parties died, after which Jinwoo receives a skill called Murderous Intent. Despite Jinho receiving credit for defeating the boss, he praises Jinwoo for defeating them as it starts raining, and Jinwoo remarks that he's happy he gave Jinha an umbrella. Jinchul receives a report about what happened with Jinwoo, finding it strange that he was involved in the incident. As he looks through the report, he recognizes Dong-suk, who is a famous hunter's brother, while Jinwoo comes back home and Jinha happily sees the food he brought. She asks him about his raid, but he starts thinking about what he did and how he didn't hesitate to kill the hunters. He starts wondering what this means and decides that he needs to focus on getting stronger and protect his family. While he's drinking beer, he gets a message about a debuff, but it goes away quickly, so he keeps drinking and realizes he can't get drunk. He also finds out that a quest for war gives him healing powers and makes him immune to some bad effects before Jinho calls him and they meet at a cafe. He says he wants Jinwoo to join him in starting a guild, but Jinwoo declines his offer. thinking about all the valuable stuff he can find in dungeons, so Jinho explains that they want an S-rank hunter to lead the guild and need his help in raids. He offers Jinwoo a $20 million building as a reward for helping with 19 more raids, but Jinwoo refuses because he's confident he'll become an S-rank hunter eventually. Meanwhile, in America, Dong-soo hears about his brother's death and decides to go back to Korea to find the one who killed them. Jinwoo continues to think about money as he tests his daily quests, discovering secret quests. He finds a key that leads to the demon's castle and ingredients for the elixir of life, which he hopes can save his mother. Despite being scared, he faces a Cerberus guarding the castle, determined to get stronger. Despite the Cerberus being much stronger than him, Jinwoo survives its attacks and levels up, promising to come back stronger for the castle's challenges. Note he needs to prepare. Jinwoo meets up with Jinho, informing him of his decision to join the raids, but with the condition that they go into the dungeons alone. Surprised, Jinho reminds Jinwoo that they need 8 members for C-rank dungeons, but Jinwoo suggests hiring people to meet the requirement. Despite his concerns about the risk, Jinwoo assures him they can clear dungeons without any deaths, telling him that his father will be impressed by their achievements, so Jinho acknowledges Jinwoo's perspective and agrees to recruit members. Meanwhile, Jinho's father, Han, discusses the changing world since the emergence of dungeons, explaining how important they are in sustaining infrastructure before revealing how much the economy relies on hunters to gather essence stones controlled by the state-owned association. However, Han notes the profitability of guilds and aims to establish his own for mutual benefit. As Jinwoo completes his daily quest, he realizes its limitations and decides to only engage in monster battles to enhance his strength. Later, Song runs into Jinwoo, noticing his healed leg as they get ready to head into a raid. As they prepare to enter the portal, they meet Juhee and Kim, who doesn't meet Jinwoo's eyes out of guilt. They're joined by 3 criminals sent by the association, and despite Jinwoo advising Juhee to not come with them, she insists on joining him. B-rank hunter Kang oversees the criminals, and Jinwoo designates Song as the raid leader. Grateful for Jinwoo's trust, Song acknowledges his role in their survival and thanks him before they head into the portal. In the dungeon, Jinwoo and the party run into a horde of goblins, but the criminals easily kill them, making Song wonder about their true abilities, while Jinwoo also effortlessly defeats the goblins, impressing Juhee with his skill. While exploring the dungeon, Jinwoo leads them towards the path to the boss and guides the convicts in one direction, considering the goblins' low experience value. Meanwhile, Kim and another member take a different path, and Jinwoo notices Kang watching them. Feeling bored by not having a challenge, the criminals remember a conversation where Kang talked about taking revenge against them. In present day, Kang suddenly murders the criminals and plans to blame the goblins for their deaths, but Kim interrupts him. Jinwoo remembers his encounter with Kang and rushes back when he hears screams, finding the convicts dead and Kim severely injured, so Juhee hurriedly tries to heal him and Kang tries to attack, but Jinwoo steps in, revealing his true strength despite being an E-rank hunter. As they start batting, Jinwoo's speed shocks Kang, who tries to use stealth to defeat him, but despite his initial advantage, Jinwoo swiftly overwhelms him with his skill and kills him. After the battle, Song takes credit for Kang's defeat to keep Jinwoo's secret safe, but Jinwoo admits he's vulnerable against higher-ranked opponents, so Song apologizes for assuming and remarks that he must have a good reason for keeping his abilities hidden, telling him to think of it as repayment. 3 hours later, the man who hired Kang Tashik to kill the 3 prisoners turned himself in. Juhee notices that Jinwoo has changed and admits she still feels insecure during her missions before revealing that she's decided to retire to help her parents with their business, giving back the essence stone Jinwoo gave her and saying goodbye. Jinwoo remembers Jinchul's warning about Dong-suk's brother investigating him and how he advised him to leave the country for safety, knowing Dong-soo is an S-rank hunter. Later, Jinwoo joins Jinho to raid a C-rank dungeon, and Jinho shows him the team of hunters he gathered, including a newcomer named Song Yi. Jinwoo remarks that she must not have any experience, but she says she's a qualified hunter, so Jinho and Jinwoo head in while the other hunters spend their free time in front of the gate. Despite the hunters having doubts, Jinwoo and Jinho swiftly clear the dungeon, shocking them before they move to the next location. During the raids, Jinwoo defeats numerous monsters, leveling up and learning new skills as Jinho notices his progress and the effectiveness of his stealth skill. Running low on mana, Jinwoo considers increasing his intellect and accepts a job change quest upon reaching the necessary level. Meanwhile, Sang from the White Tiger Guild becomes interested in Jinwoo's actions and heads to the gate of the dungeon they're going to be in, remarking that it looks like a picnic. Suspecting Jinwoo's strength, Sang decides to keep an eye on him, while in another guild, Choi has a nightmare before he gets up and prepares to execute his plan. Sang approaches Jinwoo, offering him a deal from the White Tiger Guild, but Jinwoo declines and asks if they're prepared to offer him 50 million since Eugene Construction is offering him a building worth 30 billion. Sang says he isn't in a position to make that kind of offer before Jinwoo offers to sell them dungeon rights and agrees to sell a dungeon for 200 million. The next day, Jinho asks Jinwoo how he was able to sell the gates at such crazy prices, as Sang realizes that he was ripped off and receives a message saying they're even now, but he remarks that he was able to obtain his contact information as Jinwoo is on his way to the job change quest. Arriving at the destination, Jinwoo remarks that it's given him time to prepare, which must mean why he's so scared, but he heads into the dungeon and realizes he's stuck there until he clears it. When he faces a knight, he realizes his weapons won't work against its armor, so he resorts to hand-to-hand combat, defeating it quickly before a group of Manx approaches him next. Meanwhile, Jinho joins his family for a meal, where his brother talks about plans for a guild. Unaware of Jinwoo's involvement, he warns Jinho to not interfere with his own guild plans. In the dungeon, Jinwoo manages to defeat the knights, but he senses an unseen attack and defends himself from an assassin's stealthy strike before starting to fight a mage, as he realizes that they all have to be fought differently and decides to end it soon before his stamina runs out. After defeating them, he finds invisible armor that boosts his energy and moves deeper into the dungeon, reaching a grand door leading to the throne room, where he faces the formidable knight commander Igris. Despite matching its speed, he realizes his dagger is useless against its armor, so he disarms himself and decides to use his fists since that's the only way he can damage it. Meanwhile, in Gunny's office, Jinchul tells him about Choi's upcoming mission before Choi contacts him to confirm their mission, and he warns Choi to be careful due to the ongoing analysis on Jeju Island. Back in the dungeon, Jinwoo starts getting relentlessly pummeled by Igris, realizing he needs to increase his speed to stand a chance. Despite fighting back fiercely, Igris effortlessly overwhelms him, so in a last-ditch effort, Jinwoo blinds Igris and narrowly defeats it with his fists. He receives powerful equipment and a new skill, but he's confused by why the dungeon hasn't ended before countless knights suddenly appear and surround him. As Jinwoo slowly starts getting tired, he decides to use the teleportation stone, but a knight knocks it out of his hand. Jinwoo gets thrown back, and even though he's tired and low on health, he refuses to quit and continues battling. However, as he starts getting exhausted, he collapses, and memories of his friends and past achievements remind him of his progress. Meanwhile, at the association, they discuss the aftermath of the Jeju Island raid, and though the hunters are still affected by the event, Gunny believes they must move forward to prevent more harm. Back in the dungeon, just as a knight is about to strike Jinwoo down, Jinwoo's daily quest deadline approaches, and he's transported to a penalty zone where he starts getting attacked by giant centipedes, determined to grow stronger. After defeating the centipedes and leveling up, Jinwoo uses the store to purchase potions and a powerful new weapon, the Night Killer Dagger, before learning the ruler's hand skill from a rune stone he found earlier. Returning to the dungeon, he gears up for more battles while Choi's group prepares for the raid on Jeju Island. Jinwoo fights the knights but realizes something is off when he doesn't earn XP and discovers the knights are summoned by mages before getting ready to battle them. Despite facing a giant golem summoned by the mages, Jinwoo succeeds and completes the job change quest before the timer expires. He suddenly receives the Necromancer class and hesitates, but ultimately decides to accept it, unlocking the Shadow Monarch class due to his advancement points exceeding the limit. With this class, he learns that he can command dead enemies and decides to awaken Igris, eventually succeeding on his third attempt, after which the knights and Igris bow to him. That's it for Sung Jinwoo's journey so far. Make sure to like the video and subscribe for more amazing recaps.